My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and until 4 months ago, I thought moving back home was a smart financial decision. I want to be clear about that before I tell you anything else. I was not struggling. I was not desperate. I had a stable job as a registered nurse, working 3 12-hour shifts a week, and after taxes, I was bringing home just under $54,000 a year. That is not a fortune, but it is enough. Enough to eat well, drive a reliable car, keep my student loans current, and still put money away each month. The reason I moved back home was simple. I had a goal. I wanted to buy my own place by the time I turned 30. A small house, nothing extravagant, just something that was mine. In the city where I work, a reasonable down payment means saving close to $25,000. I had been renting a one-bedroom apartment for 3 years, and after utilities, groceries, and my loan payments, I was only saving about $300 a month. At that rate, I was looking at nearly 7 years before I had enough. So when my mother called me last spring and said the spare room was empty, and that she and my stepfather would not charge me rent, just help around the house, contribute to groceries, that kind of thing, I said yes. I did the math. I could save over $2,000 a month living at home. In 12 months I would have enough. In 18 months I would have more than enough. I gave my landlord notice, packed my things, and moved back into the house I grew up in. That is the context. I need you to have it, because what happened next only makes sense if you understand that I came home with a plan, with discipline, and with the belief that my family meant what they said. Before I tell you what my mother slid across the kitchen table 8 months after I moved in, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. I had been home for about 8 months when things started to shift. Small things at first. My mother began making comments about the electricity bill. My stepfather would mention casually that the water bill had gone up. My younger sister, Danielle, who still lived at home and worked part-time at a salon, never seemed to be the subject of these comments. Only me. I let it go. I started being more careful, shorter showers, turning off lights, keeping my thermostat low in my room. I contributed $100 a week to groceries on top of what I already helped with. I thought I was being a good house guest. I thought we were fine. Then one Tuesday evening in February, my mother asked me to sit down at the kitchen table after dinner. My stepfather was already seated. Danielle was in the living room, and I could see her from where I sat. She was on her phone, not paying attention, or at least pretending not to. My mother placed a manila folder on the table and pushed it toward me. I looked at her. She nodded at the folder. I opened it. Inside was a document. It was typed, formatted, and printed on plain white paper. At the top, in bold letters, it read, Household Contribution Agreement. Below that was a table with columns labeled month, base rate, and amount due. I scanned down the column. 8 rows, 8 months. Each row showed a figure of $1,400. At the bottom of the column, in bold, was a total, $11,200. I did not speak for a moment. I looked up at my mother. She said, Your stepfather and I sat down and figured out what a fair contribution from you would have been, starting from when you moved in. We looked at comparable room rentals in this area, and $1,400 a month is actually below market rate, so we were being generous. I looked at my stepfather. He was looking at the table. I asked her what this was. She said it was what I owed them. She said she and my stepfather had talked about it, and they felt that the arrangement had become unbalanced. She said I had been living there for 8 months, using their utilities, eating their food. I interrupted her. I reminded her that I paid for groceries every single week. I reminded her that she told me there would be no rent. She said that was before they realized how much my presence was actually costing them. She said they had not anticipated that a grown adult woman would use so much of the household resources. I asked her when they had decided this. She said they had been discussing it for a while. I asked why they were only telling me now, 8 months in. My stepfather spoke for the first time. He said the bill had been building, and they wanted to address it properly. He said they had also consulted a neighbor who used to manage rental properties, and he confirmed that $1,400 was more than fair. I sat back in my chair, the number in front of me $11,000, $200 sat there on the table like a physical thing. I had been saving carefully for 8 months. I had nearly $17,000 set aside. They could not have known the exact amount, but I realized in that moment that they knew approximately how much I was making. They knew I had been saving, and they had done the math. I asked my mother if Danielle was also being charged. There was a pause. My stepfather said that was a different situation. I asked how it was different. My mother said Danielle was not in the same financial position that I was in. She said Danielle was still figuring things out. Danielle was 24. She had lived at home her entire adult life, worked 15 hours a week, and contributed nothing that I had ever seen. I was not angry at Danielle in that moment. I was something colder than angry. I closed the folder. I asked my mother if she was serious. She said they were not trying to make things difficult. She said this was just about fairness. She said a daughter who earns what I earn should be able to contribute properly to the household that supports her. I asked her how she wanted me to pay. She slid a second piece of paper across the table. It was a payment schedule. It said the first installment of $2,800 was due within 30 days, with the remaining balance to be paid in monthly installments of $1,400, which would also be the new ongoing monthly rent. I read it twice. Then I folded both papers, put them back in the folder, stood up from the table, and said goodnight. I went to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and did not cry. I had moved past the point where that kind of thing made me cry. Instead, I opened my laptop and started looking at apartments. Over the next 2 weeks, I said very little about the folder. My mother brought it up once, asking when I planned to respond. I told her I was thinking about it. She accepted that and did not push further. My stepfather made no eye contact. Danielle asked me once if I was okay, and I told her I was fine, and I meant it, because I had already decided what I was going to do. I found an apartment. It was in a neighborhood slightly farther from the hospital than I would have liked, but it was clean, it was mine, and the lease could start in 3 weeks. I signed the application, paid the deposit, and was approved within 4 days. I did not tell my mother. I continued going to work. I continued bringing home groceries on Sundays. I continued being exactly as I had been. I was not planning a scene. I was not building toward a confrontation. I simply needed 3 more weeks, and then I needed to be gone. The day before my lease started, I packed. I had not accumulated much. Nurses learned to travel light, and most of what I owned fit into my car and a rented trailer. I asked a colleague from work and her husband to help me, and they came on a Saturday morning while my mother was out at her book club and my stepfather was watching golf. My stepfather saw us carrying boxes to the trailer. He came to the doorway and watched. He did not say anything for a long time. Then he asked where I was going. I said I was moving out. He asked if my mother knew. I said she would when she got home. He said I should wait and talk to her. I said there was nothing left to discuss. I gave my room one last look. I had painted that room myself when I was 16, a soft gray that my mother had said was too dark but eventually let me keep. Someone would paint over it. I left the key on the dresser, and I walked out. My mother called me 3 times that afternoon. I let the calls go to voicemail. I was unloading boxes and building furniture and ordering pizza with people who were genuinely glad to be there, and I did not want to walk backward into the conversation I had just walked away from. That evening, I listened to the voicemails. The first one was confused. She said she had come home to find my room empty and asked what was going on. The second one was sharper. She said I had been inconsiderate, and that I had left without any discussion, without any respect for them as my parents. The third one was quieter. She said she hoped I was safe and that she would like to talk when I was ready. I texted her that night. I said I was safe. She responded with a single word. Okay. I put my phone face down on my new kitchen counter, and I slept better than I had in 8 months. 3 weeks passed. I worked, I cooked in my own kitchen. I kept saving money slower now, but still steadily. I did not reach out. I did not explain myself. I had nothing to explain. Adults are allowed to decide where they live. It was a Thursday evening when my phone showed Danielle's name on the screen. I answered. She said, "Hey." There was something careful in her voice, the way people sound when they have been asked to make a call they were not sure they wanted to make. I said hey back and waited. She said she just wanted to check in. She said things at home had been a little stressful. I asked her what kind of stressful. She paused. Then she said that there was some stuff going on with the house. She said Mom and her stepfather had gotten a notice from the mortgage company. She said she was not totally sure what it meant, but she thought it was serious. I did not respond immediately. She said, I know things ended weirdly. I just thought you should know. I thanked her for telling me and said I would think about it. We hung up. I sat with that for a while. Here is what I did not know at the time, but would piece together over the following days. My mother and stepfather had refinanced their mortgage twice in 6 years. The second refinance had pulled out equity they no longer had. They were 3 months behind on payments, and the notice Danielle had seen was a formal warning, not foreclosure yet, but the kind of letter that precedes it. They had not told anyone. They had been managing it quietly, or trying to, until they could not anymore. They had, according to what Danielle eventually told me, been counting on my monthly contributions to cover the gap. Not future contributions. The back payments they had invented and tried to collect from me. $11,000. They had needed it. And when I left without paying a cent of it, the gap they had been papering over opened up. My mother called me herself 2 days after Danielle did. It was a Sunday morning. She did not start with the mortgage. She started by asking how I was doing, how the apartment was, whether I was eating properly. I answered everything honestly. I was fine. The apartment was good. I had made a big pot of soup the night before. Then she got quiet and said there was something she needed to talk to me about. I said okay. She explained the mortgage situation. She was careful about it. Precise, she gave me the numbers, the timeline, how much they were behind, what they needed to bring the account current before the bank moved to the next stage. The number was just under $14,000. I listened to all of it without interrupting. When she finished, there was a silence. Then she said, I was hoping that you might be able to help us. I want to tell you what I felt in that moment, because I think it matters. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel the satisfaction that people in movies feel when they are proven right. What I felt was something tired and clear, the way you feel when you have been carrying something heavy for a long time, and you finally set it down, not because someone took it from you, but because you decided it was time. I asked my mother a question. I said, when you made that document, the one with the back rent, did you and my stepfather plan it together? She was quiet. I said I was not asking to start a fight. I said I genuinely wanted to understand. She said yes, they had planned it together. She said they had thought that if I understood I owed them money, I would be less likely to leave. They thought it would feel like a debt. She said they did not think I would just go. I asked her why they had never just told me what was actually happening with the mortgage. She said she was ashamed. She said they had been managing it for so long and she did not want me to think less of them. I sat with that answer. Then I said this. I told her I was not going to give them $14,000. She said she understood. I said I was also not going to pay the $11,000 they had invented and put in a folder. She said she understood that too. I said there was something I was willing to do, but it came with conditions, and they were not negotiable. She said she was listening. I told her that I would research legitimate housing assistance programs and HUD-approved counseling services in their area. I would help them make the calls, fill out the paperwork, and put them in contact with professionals who handled exactly this situation. I told her there were options they did not know about, and that some of those options could buy them real time, not the kind of time that papering over a problem buys, but actual structured time. I told her I would do that because she was my mother. And because underneath everything that had happened, I was not a person who walked away from people in trouble. But I told her clearly I would help them find help. I would not be the help myself. Not financially. Not anymore, she cried. I let her. When she was done, she said thank you. I said she was welcome. I spent the following week doing exactly what I said I would do. I researched their county, found 2 legitimate mortgage assistance programs, located a HUD-certified housing counselor who could meet with them in person, and emailed everything to my mother in a single organized document. I offered to be on the phone with her the first time she called the counselor's office, if she wanted me there. She said yes. I was. The counselor helped them negotiate a repayment plan with the mortgage servicer. It was not easy and it was not fast, but it was real, and it was moving. I did not move back home. I did not pay their debt. I did not let guilt or history or the fact that she was my mother turn a boundary into a suggestion. I want to say something to anyone watching this who has been in a version of this situation, because I know this is not a rare story. Families that love each other imperfectly can still cause real harm. Parents who are genuinely struggling can still manipulate. And you can hold both of those things true at the same time, without excusing the behavior and without abandoning the person. What I could give, I gave. What I could not give without losing myself, I did not give. There is a version of me that pays the $11,000, the $14,000, moves back in, and quietly watches her savings account empty out, while everyone adjusts to the new normal, and nothing changes. I know that version of me. She would not have been called selfish. She would have been called a good daughter. But she also would not have been free. My apartment is quiet in the evenings. I have a small balcony where I drink my coffee on the mornings before long shifts. I still call my mother. Things are different, not fixed, not the same as before, but different in the way that honest things feel different after you stop pretending they are something else. I am still saving. Slower now, but I am 28 years old and I have time, and what I have saved, all of it, belongs entirely to me. If this story meant something to you, I hope you carry the part that is useful and leave the rest. And if you are sitting somewhere right now holding a folder someone handed you full of things you never actually agreed to owe, you are allowed to close it, stand up, and walk out of the room. That is all I did. It just turned out to be enough. If you want to see more stories like this one, tap the subscribe button and hit the bell so you do not miss what is coming next. And drop a comment, tell me where you are watching from, what time it is, and whether you have ever been handed a bill you never agreed to pay. I will be reading every single one.